Good evening, friends. Welcome to this Tuesday edition of Biggest Story Tonight. And of course, we are going to focus on the proceedings of the Parliament, the opposition moving a no confidence motion against the Modi government. Second time that Prime Minister Modi is facing this. And the two sides exchange their notes, and that would be interesting how we analyze that. Also, the NewsClick scam, the Chinese media scam that hit the news waves yesterday, rocked the Parliament today, both in the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha. We'll focus on that with some guests. Let's begin with the headlines first. Storm over Lutyens' cash for news scam. Lutyens' lobby silent. Republic accesses the mail trail, proof that shows cash for news trail for Chinese propaganda. Fireworks in Parliament as MPs from both sides engage in fiery debate on the no trust motion. A BJP set to escalate attack on opposition, all MPs to launch Quit India movement. ED summons Jharkhand Chief Minister Hemant Soren on 14th of August in connection with the land scam. Kerala Chief Minister moves anti-uniform civil code resolution in the Assembly. Pepperfry co-founder Ambarish Murthy dies of cardiac arrest at the age of 51. Welcome back, friends. Lutyens' media scam is getting bigger. The alleged email exchanges that have gone viral are at the center of the controversy. The email trail gives a clear hint of cash for news money trail. Now, what we understand according to the ED documents is that Neville Roy Singham made an investment of rupees 38.4 crores in PPK NewsClick Studio Private Limited. Part of fund introduced in PPK NewsClick Studio Private Limited was then distributed amongst controversial journalists, activists including Teesta Setalwar and Gautam Navlakha. Shravan has reported extensively on this scam in 2021, and he's closely following all the details on this big story. Take a look. In fact, we have Shravan joining us live from outside Parliament. And Shravan, this money trail, individual payments to the likes of Teesta Setalwar, Gautam Navlakha, Paranjay Guha, Thakurta, Bisar Sharma, Urmilesh, among others, clearly show that there was an intent to create and sustain an ecosystem and an echo chamber which is against the government and which is seen to be soft on China. If you get that email, if you read that email of Prakash Karath and Neville Roy, it is clear that a certain positive spin is sought to be given to whatever is happening in China, whatever China is doing around the world. And of course, these payments to these journalists and influencers, so to say, media influencers who push a certain narrative, a certain agenda, and are part of a certain ecosystem. And that's what perhaps the BJP wanted to focus on when it brought the issue in Parliament today, Shravan.
Well, that's right, Abhishek. Take a look at the timeline. First is with regards to when did the conversation actually begin between Editor-in-Chief of NewsClick and Neville Roy Singham. If you go by the statement that was given by Prabir Purkaistu to the Enforcement Directorate, first he denied, later he admitted that he started speaking to Neville Roy Singham starting from 2017. What is the time period of this alleged scam? It is between 2017 and 2021. The flow of money comes in from 2018, in fact. It comes in from a company called Worldwide Media LLC. What is the total amount of money that we are looking at? Foreign remittances, roughly about 38 crore rupees. Now, what happens to this money? This money comes to NewsClick. It comes to officially to PPK NewsClick Private Limited. This money thereafter is distributed to people who are either linked directly to NewsClick or it is indirect links to NewsClick. For instance, Paranjay Guha Thakurta receives roughly about 40 lakh rupees as per the claims that have been made by the Enforcement Directorate. Now this money goes to Paranjay Guha Thakurta, who happens to be a consultant with NewsClick. When he was asked about his association with NewsClick, he simply distanced himself, saying that I have nothing to do, I do not know who this man is. Similarly, you have other influencers, media influencers who have been linked. Abhisar Sharma also happens to be someone who has been operating out of NewsClick studio by his own admission. If you go by Abhisar Sharma's response that came in soon after the Enforcement Directorate when they were carrying out the raids, Abhisar Sharma said that he was operating out of NewsClick studio. In fact, he too has received the amount. I can't exactly recall the amount, Abhishek. You would have the document with you, but Abhisar Sharma also allegedly received that amount. Now, Teesta Setalwad and her family members, it is through an NGO that the money actually comes in. Now, let's talk about the objective of this money. Is this about simply writing articles or critiquing the government? Going by the emails that have now been accessed by Republic TV, doesn't really look like, because the objective here was to basically create an atmosphere here in India which would essentially be conducive for China to carry out their work. Now, what work are we talking about? One, about it's whipping up sentiments against China. To counter that, you needed articles to be published. One, about how how China is flourishing in terms of its economy despite the COVID lockdown, how China has been able to cross that barrier as far as the standoff in the line of actual control is concerned. How exactly is China positioned on that matter? China's one policy. If you really look at it, there is an attempt to perhaps gloss over all of these issues. What is surprising is the fact that most of these people are now essentially saying that, look here, we do not know what are you really talking about. Who exactly is Naval Roy Singapore? Who exactly is Bappa Aditya Sinha? Bappa Aditya Sinha happens to be a person who manages the Twitter handle of most of the CPI leaders. As per our own research, Abhishek, what we were going through, Bappa Aditya is a person who handles several software technologies, and in fact he was responsible, he was working with NewsClick, an admission made by none other than Prakash Karat. So if you look at the gamut of things right now, it gives you the larger picture. We're talking about the period when China was struggling here in India, and let's not forget Chinese manufacturing, Chinese companies like, I'm not naming those companies, but these are companies which have come under the scanner. Phone companies which have had direct links with China, they have come under the scanner. And remember, loan app scam. There are several scams I can actually name out right now which have had Chinese links over the last few years. That is the reason why a naval Roy Singham becomes very important for the Communist Party of China.
Shravan, it's not Ishkaran Bhandari is also joining us. I'll come to you, Ishkaran. One quick question from Shravan. Shravan, do you have something about the timing? The fact that NewsClick was set up just around the time when Elgar Parishad incident happened, just about 10 days before or after. So obviously, and the connection with Gautam Navlakha. Do you have something on that from the investigators?
Well, in fact, there are two aspects. One is incorporation of PPK NewsClick Studio, and second is another very interesting company which none of the media houses or even politicians are really focusing on, Abhishek, and that is, along with Gautam Navlakha, who happens to be an accused in the Elgar Parishad case, they incorporated a company. This company was actively working with a defense supplier. Surprisingly, we're talking about a journalist which has no links with any defense-related issues. And Gautam Navlakha comes into the picture gets into a deal with an existing arms dealer, a defense supplier, and starts a company which is again is a nondescript company. Again, at the same very period, I'm talking about 2017 in particular, when the money starts coming in. The incorporation of NewsClick happens a little before that. Yes, at that point in time, perhaps you've had about 9 shareholders of NewsClick Private Limited, but one of the biggest shareholders happens to be through Naval Roy Singham. So that's the period that we are talking about.
Okay, let's go to Ishkaran on that note. Ishkaran, since you practice law, give us the legal perspective. What can be done about these people, about this company, and in the light of these revelations, clear attempt at sleeping with the enemy, so to say?
See, one was the ED case, which the ED is doing, and that is money laundering, PMLA violations. But to my mind, the contents of these emails, obviously they will have to be proved in court. But if we take them for what they are, that to my mind is complete treason. You are doing Chinese propaganda. China, which in Galwan Valley, we know what happened. How many of our brave soldiers are facing China to protect our borders? And you do news stories which will not only glorify Chinese propaganda, which will give a perspective on border clashes, which will be, and the shocking part, I just saw on your screen how Editor Guild was supporting them. They should also introspect that you do not know what a company is doing. So if government takes some action, they should be fair-handed, they should be balanced, they should wait for the documents to come out, they should wait for the documents to be filed in the court. Because what these documents shows, that you are making a strategy. In that strategy, you are trying to attack the government, sow discord in India. May I quote you from Homeland Security? Homeland Security of United States says malignant actions by foreign players to sow discord, to manipulate the stock market, to create disaffection are all offenses against the United States of America. Every nation recognizes that there is a conventional war, there is a terror war, which some countries, unfortunately India has Pakistan, and then there is this information war in which you try to increase the fault lines in the country, try to create fake propaganda against the government, and this you are doing on behest of foreign funding. What can be more serious and more shameful than this? Now I would hope at least Editor Guild comes out with a letter and withdraws its earlier letter, and the government books them not under the ED cases but under National Security Act. That is what I would expect in a case like this.
Yeah, also Ishkaran, you know, some of these out-of-job media influencers, they would loosely use the term Godi media for their opponents, for people they did not like. Now it seems, it transpires rather, that it's somebody else who was in the Godi of somebody, in the Godi of enemy actually, if one could say that. What is important is, Ishkaran, that the lobby which backed NewsClick, the lobby which panned the ED investigation, has gone completely silent now.
This is not a question of ideology. This is a question of actions against India. Let us be very clear. You could be left, you could be right, you could be center. But these are treasonous activities. If you take money from a country in which we have a border dispute, that you use to propagate the talking points of that country, and this appears to be a global operation. I was reading some reports that this gentleman was doing it in Brazil, South Africa. So it's completely a foreign intelligence arm. It appears he is in bed with the China, is a foreign intelligence arm, and he is using this in Indian context to create dissatisfaction in India. Not only that, to create fake, false borders. One of the things I've talked about and read is how Arunachal Pradesh is to be described, how border issues to be handled, how COVID is to be tackled, what is to be done for glorification. All these are activities which are not ideological. These are enemy actions. These are agents of an enemy country. Let us be very clear. This is not about Godi media, Pitti media, this media, that media. This is a media person or anybody else. If you are receiving money from China and doing their behest at a national scale, that is treasonous activity. Let us be very clear and call it what it is.
Yeah, Ishkaran, just to give an idea of how dangerous it was, that there is an exchange of emails where these protagonists are discussing which map to use. India map, China map, different map, two different maps, a missing line of border between India and Bhutan, things like that. It was as dangerous as that a ploy of the Chinese using these set of people, Indian citizens, against India. On that note, thank you so much, Shravan Sen, joining us live from outside Parliament, and Ishkaran Bandari. And in fact, the issue rocked the Parliament as well. BJP raised the issue in both the houses, in fact, and accused the Congress of encouraging Chinese interference in the country through the NewsClick website. Let's listen into those interventions made by the Treasury bench members.
कल मेरी बात पर जो है बड़ा हंगामा हुआ, न्यूज क्लिक के ऊपर बड़ा हंगामा हुआ। आज प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस हुआ सर, प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में मैं एक बताऊं, यदि न्यूज क्लिक का नाम यदि डिलीट या रेस्टोर हो गया, कांग्रेस को क्या समस्या है सर? न्यूज क्लिक आपका कौन लगता है? पुरकास्ट का नाम यदि रेस्टोर हो गया, पुरकास्ट आपका क्या लगता है? रोहिणी सिंह, अभिसार शर्मा या कोई भी मान लीजिए ठाकुर रंजन प्रागता, यदि उसका डिलीट हो गया नाम या एक्सपंज से फिर बाहर आ गया, आपको क्या परेशानी है? आपका कोई मतलब नहीं है। और मैं ऑन रिकॉर्ड एक और रिवीलेशन करना चाहता हूं सर, कि सीपीएम के जो जनरल सेक्रेटरी, पूर्व जनरल सेक्रेटरी थे प्रकाश कारात साहब, उनका पूरा का पूरा मेल मैं ऑन रिकॉर्ड आपको लाना चाहता हूं कि जो वो नेवेली राय सिंघम था उसके साथ उनके हजारों मेल हैं। और जब आप कहेंगे मैं ऑन रिकॉर्ड उसको पेश कर दूंगा सर कि सीपीएम किस तरह से देशद्रोही पार्टी के साथ है। हम तो आइडियोलॉजी में मानने वाले हैं। यदि हमने सीपीएम के साथ लड़ाई की आइडियोलॉजिकल, तो आज तक हमने सीपीएम के साथ समझौता नहीं किया, आज तक हमने समझौता नहीं किया। यदि हमने कहा कि कोई मुस्लिम लीग जिसने कि भारत विभाजन किया, आज तक वोट बैंक की राजनीति के बाद हमने मुस्लिम लीग के साथ नहीं लिया। लेकिन आपको जिस कांग्रेस पार्टी ने रोज रोज जलील किया, उसके साथ आप किस आधार पर जो है शासन में हो?